Okay, to begin, the first thing we're going to make will be the sides of the rocket stove. The side panels are going to look somewhat like this. We're going to have a 1/4 inch flange, 1 inch double back, 3/4 up, 20 3/8 over, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. What this is going to make a pocket in which the front and the side panels are, the front and the back panels are going to slide into. And so what we need for the pieces of metal to start off with are 2 pieces, 26 3/8 inches by 16 inches of 26 gauge. This will be the first thing we make. Now, first thing I want to cover when we start to go to scratch everything out on the metal, this right here is a scribe. It's a Malco scribe, and it is highly recommended that you get one of these from somewhere before you start the project. The reason is that it's going to save a lot of time. It's going to make accurate marks. You use just a simple screw. If the screw gets dull, they have extra screws so you can replace it. It's got your inch marks on it. This can actually be reversed around and go up to a very, very large size. It'll actually go up to 12.5 inches by making another adjustment. But almost all the measurements we're going to be taking and using off of the metal can be scribed with this. You don't have to pull out a scratch awl, and you don't have to pull out a ruler and start to lay everything out. So anyhow, the very first thing we need to do is make our 1/4 inch mark. Now, if you're using the bar fold, you don't have to have this 1/4 inch mark marked on here. I'm only going to do this in case you're going to be using a brake on it, and also so you can see how this is going to work out. Later on, you'll be shortcutting some of the steps and just say do this, and go from there. So the 1/4 inch mark, it needs to be marked on both ends of both sheets of the metal. After the 1/4 inch, adjust the scribe to 1.25 inches and mark it again. By the way, this right here is actually going to be the outside of the shell. After our bends are all done, that's just where this will end up. So if you have a scratched up piece of metal and you want a nicer looking one, make this the nicer looking side that you start on. The next mark, set at 2.25 inches. Mark it again. Flip it over, do the 2.25 again. Okay, the next mark is going to be at 3 inches. That's 2.25 plus our 3/4 makes our 3 inches. Now this here, the reason this is 3/4 is on the brake. Oftentimes the leaf will only open up to 7/8 of an inch if it's a larger brake like this. If we're a 1 inch or anything larger than 7/8 inches here, it's going to make it very difficult to get the metal in and out while doing it. Yes, it can be done. Yes, there's different ways of bending it, but I'm just trying to make this a little bit more simple. So anyhow, the 3 inch mark is made on both ends. Now we set the scribe at 3/4 of an inch. And we'll mark actually only as far as we need to is to the 2.25 inch mark. Once we get that, we will notch it out at the 2.25 inch distance on this 3/4 mark we just made. Of course, we're going to do this on all 4 corners. We're going to do it on both pieces. Okay, now we'll go over and we'll bend this up at the bar fold. Okay, now we're at the bar fold. I've already got the bar fold set for a 1/4 inch bend. So what we're going to do is we're going to first bend our 1/4. and flatten it out. We're going to do this to both pieces and both ends of each piece. Once this is done, reset the bar fold at 1 inch, or if you're at the break, go and just take it straight to the break and bend your 1 inch mark. And do be very careful on this, because you don't want to be like in 1 1/16 inch over. It'll make a difference. Try to get it as accurate as you can. Bend it, flatten it somewhat, but you don't want to flat mash it all the way down. You want it to have a nice kind of a curved shape to it. And so we're going to once again do this on all the pieces. Once you got that, flip it over so the S portion or the C portion you just barely made is on the bottom. Bend this up at a 90. From here we'll go to the break and we'll bend the 3/4 inch up. Now, in bending this, notice that it's going to have a hard time fitting in. That's because one end of the break is closed. When you're going to try using the maximum height on here, both ends of the break have to be all the way opened up. If it's just minor bends, you don't need to, but when you're trying to get long clearance, it's kind of a pain, but you got to do it. So anyhow, just going to simply bend the 3/4 inch up. Once again at a 90-degree angle. Do it to both pieces, and that completes our one side. Okay, this is going to be our number 2 piece, which is going to be our back. The back piece is going to be very simple. It's just going to have a 1 inch, 18 3/4 inches, then another 1 inch. And so our blank out piece we'll need one of them at 20 3/4 by 16 of 26 gauge. To lay out the second piece, all we need to do is make a 1 inch mark at each end. By the way, when using the scribe, notice how when I get near the end, that really cuts the finger bad. So be very, very careful. Even when using the scribe, wear some gloves. I got the scars to show that you really do need gloves. Okay. Then we reset the scribe to 3/4 of an inch. We mark the top and bottom at 3/4 of an inch. And we notch it out. And we just take this over to the bar fold, we bend this up at the 1 inch 90, and then we're done with that.